Obviously, the smoker, it masks the pheromone. Some people talk about that it kind of alerts the bees that maybe a fire's coming, so they decide they want to get out. Don't know how much that holds water, but
Ours always seem to go down.
so they go down because it does affect their senses. All right, they move away from it. All right, but one of the things that's valuable, if you do get a hive that just really tears you up,
I close it up.
it's just bad. You can take your smoker and smoke your body. So one of the things that you don't want to do before you go out your apiary is eat a banana, because the pheromone that they put off is a smell like a banana. So
Like
don't eat
bananas.
bananas. All right. The other thing I would encourage is not to shampoo or matter of fact, it was you. It was you. He and I was at his apiary.
Oh yeah.
Right? And he's working his bees, and I'm standing back, and they are just covering his leg right here, just covering his leg. And I'm like, what the hell's going on with that? Well, after we got done and walked away, I'm like, Charles, man, these wrong. He's like, oh, I just got a tattoo.
Yeah, I got a tattoo.
And he has some kind of honey-based lotion or something on it, right? So again, don't do things that are going to make your life more difficult when it's dealing with bees. Right? Now I was thinking who it was. I'm like, yeah, it was you. We were doing that. And so if you have a situation like that, then kind of think about what did I do different, or what am I doing now, and don't do it again. All right? Just make your life easier. All right. All right. That kind of gives you an idea of what wax moss damage can be. Again, this is out of cutout. But I want you to notice something. Anybody other than color, can you tell the difference in those two cells? The size, right? See the size of that?
Yeah.
Where's that? That's drone. That's drone cell. That's worker cell.
Speaking of drone, is it true that the Varroa mites like to go in the drone cells? If you want to check for Varroa mites, open up your drone cells.
Yeah, that's a way that you could do that, yes. But most people, when they come to controlling Varroa mites, there is a frame that's sold, medium and deep, that's green. Right? If you ever see a green one, look at the size of the comb. It's bigger like that piece I showed you. It's drone. It's a drone foundation. All right? They will fill that out with drones. At certain times of year. They won't do it in the fall, but now they will. Well, you are correct. The Varroa tends to like the drone larva and treatment sensitive. They will put in drone frames this time of year, let them build it out.
That makes sense.
And then they will remove the whole frame. They won't go checking anything. Little crock pot, let it melt down. Take this style of, and again, you can use a paintbrush if you want, but I use this little style. And what happens is this is really hard now. Don't throw it away, because all you got to do is set it back down in your crock pot, and this is going to warm up. It's going to melt the wax on there, and you just use it again. So it can be used over and over and over again. But this little bag, this is my bag that I've got vitamin E in here. I got some stringers. I got this little thing right here, and I make lip balm.
Oh,
So it's got my beeswax. It's got vitamin E. Also, I think I use a coconut oil. Vitamin E, coconut oil, and my wax. I experimented with a little bit of extract of vanilla, cherry, just to kind of play around a little bit. But beware, and this is not, I don't sell this. If I ever do plan on selling it, under the Apiary Act, all right, there is guidelines by which you can sell product. The good thing, Oklahoma is very bee friendly, very bee friendly. Whether you have bees, matter of fact, your town cannot keep you from having bees.
I actually took him a copy of the Apiary Act.
And now, again, remember we talked about how bad you want to fight it, what you want to do.
Well, and it's like I told her, I was like, I've got several other places to take it to them so that they were aware of it.
But just know that the law is on your side, or the law can be maybe not on your side if you take things. So in Oklahoma, if we take wax, beeswax, or raw honey products, and we process that to use, that's your own business. But if you want to sell it, there are some guidelines. So basically in the state of Oklahoma, if you extract 499 gallons of honey, is it gallons or pounds? I think it's gallons of honey, 499 or less, then you have to put very little information on the sticker. You know how when you go buy products now, you've got a list of ingredients and this, that, and the other? That is required if you manipulate that honey and start putting blackberry extract or anything in it. So like this lip balm, if I were to sell this lip balm because I added the vitamin E, now I've got a different label, all right? The 499 gallons or less allows you to extract honey, bottle it, and sell it with bare minimum information. Basically, it's your name, your address. There has to be a statement. There's a certain size font. The color has to be obvious enough that it doesn't fade in with everything else. In other words, you know you got to read the thing,
I
right?
think you gotta put on there, not bottled in an inspected
That's correct.
facility.
So that is a very lenient in the state of Oklahoma. You hit 500, and now it has to be processed in a state certified. So we want to do a state certified. One of the things that being a veteran and being a certified service-disabled veteran-owned small business, I have some accesses to AFI stores, commissaries, and things, and they want our products. They want veteran products, right? But I will never make enough honey to supply them all they need. But if I have a extraction facility that I can come to you and you said, yeah, I do 200 pounds of honey a year, and we do it by crank, and I'd sure love to be able to do it in 30 minutes versus 10 hours. Now, some people that may be a tradition. It's something they love to do, and I'm not talking about taking that away from them. I'm just talking about somebody that says, you know what, I'd like to do it easier if I could. Right? So we would bring up a portable extraction trailer, extract the honey, and then bring it back here. So you can extract all the honey in the world under no law in the field. It's when you take it from being raw to putting it in a bottle is the $4.99 or less or $500 above. Right? So that's kind of the key thing. Anyway,
Our kids saw us cranking the honey, and for our
I think it actually has some marks on the inside. Yeah, there's 2 marks on the inside. I'm assuming that's probably 300 bees. But anyway, same thing, run it down backwards, set it in here. Before you set it in here, this is 2 tablespoons of sugar powder, right? If you're gonna do 4 hives, make you 4 of these before you go to the field, and then you have to just undo it and put it in here. Because once you do that, you got your bees in here, you got your sugar powder in there, you're gonna close this up, and same thing, 2 minutes, right, shaking it around. Now, these bees don't look very good when they come out. All right, they've been shaking around, and I don't know if they're gonna make it or not. They look like they're walking around when you're done. And again, you're not sitting there seeing if 300 bees are still alive. But
Won't the
anyway,
other bees clean them off?
yes, they will. I mean, here's the thing that you're gonna get, and somebody posted using powdered sugar to do, and somebody said, oh, you shouldn't do that because it has cornstarch in it, and cornstarch and powdered sugar will kill your bee colony. Powdered sugar day
I'm
after
afraid
day.
of that. Take your regular sugar and put it in your
No, you can-
blender, and you'll make powdered sugar.
There you go. You can do that. That's a great way just to make powdered sugar. But whether you do it or not, that 300 bees of powdered sugar, it ain't gonna kill it. It ain't gonna do nothing to it. So, but again, that's the kind of stuff that you're gonna get in the bee community sometimes. Is it's like, oh my gosh, I use powdered sugar, so I'm never gonna use that again. What do I gotta do? Well, I gotta go buy a blender. I gotta blend my own sugar. I gotta do this stuff. No, you don't have to do that. So now you got that powdered sugar in here. Take your bottle of water, pour it in there, slosh it around a little bit to dissolve that powdered sugar. When we did that the other day, man, that mites just started popping right out. All right. This was a hive that we had not been treated. It was from a cutout. And again, when you do cutouts, when you pick up swarms, you potentially bring problems to your apiary. So we quarantine the bees before we introduce them to the rest of the bees. All right. So very, very easy way to do that. And it tends to be a little more kinder on the heart, I guess, if you want to look at that one, and look like they're going to be okay. But anyway, all right, this is a hive beetle trap, pretty cheap device, fits down between the frames. If you have an issue with hive beetles, you said you saw 2 of them the other day, that's not an issue, but doesn't mean they can't go to 500, right? Hive beetles really cause more stress. They will have some effect on the hive, but not a lot, because bees are very good at hurting them. If you have a lot of hive beetles, you'll find them in the corners. That's what these are good for, because the bees start hurting and they come over here and they go, oh, I got a place to hide. Well, this is filled about a quarter away with vegetable oil, and they get down in there, they can't get out. So it's a way of managing. Some people use those Swifter, unscented Swifter. I don't know, that will eat the larva of the hive beetle. And I'm like, well, I'll try it, I've got a lot of them, and I'm catching them in here, but I don't seem like I'm gaining ground on them. They gain ground on me. So it comes in some gel stuff that you put in one of your sprayers, like you spray your garden with fertilizer or whatever, liquid fertilizer. You run the strain over the gel a couple times, and then you've got just water in your sprayer, and you go out there and spray the ground. Well, when I did that, Within 2 weeks, no more hot dogs. I mean, it's like, bam, they got after it. So that worked for me, but there could be other ways that works for
We
you.
have a lot less since.
Product that you can buy for somebody that mildly has issues with a sting. All right, so you can carry that with you, and when they get stung, you just break that deal and put it on the sting, and that can be good for somebody that has, let's say, a moderate, average reaction. Have some of that. Anybody that has anything more than that really needs the EpiPen, and that's not something you just can buy.
What was this called?
This just is sting kill.
That was a good name.
You know, and again,
With our insurance,
the queen's going to come in something like this. You can see there's a cork in there. That cork was in one end, and candy sugar was in the other end. All right. So they had the candy sugar there, and then they put the queen in, put the cork in. So basically, you're going to put that down in between frames and allow the bees to chew through that and let the queen out at some point. The whole idea is she gets to be acclimated to the hive. They get used to her. They go, okay, we got a queen. Let's all live together, and everything's fine. All right. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen every time. All right. But what you don't want to do now, they're going to feed her through this screen. So and sometimes you'll get some worker bees that come inside there as well.
and sometimes when you buy a queen, they'll have worker bees in with her.
They do. Not always, but they can.
Not always.
So if you do get them with work, don't think it's unusual or anything. It's just that they put some in there. But typically 24, 48 hours is kind of the max you want to put this in there and just leave her in there. All right. Now, I don't really got anybody really to ever tell me that, okay, yeah, they've accepted her. You know, if they want to, they can sting her through this. All right. So they could kill her. But again, at that particular point in time, it's all about inspection after the fact, looking at what's going on. Did you get to the point where you had no brood and no eggs, and now you need to see, is she laying eggs? Here's another one like this. This is a plastic one. Sometimes they'll come in a plastic deal like this. All right, so your queen can come in a variety of different ways. This little device right here is kind of cool. You catch your queen, you drop her in here, you close the top, making sure this is down. Very important, I'll tell you why. And then you move it up like this, not that hard. Easily move it up. So now she's pressed against this. And then you take one of your markers for the correct color year, and there are 6 colors. So one color for every 2 months. And there's a chart. And so that way you know that this queen was born in 2022. So it always, that 2, 1, 3, 4, 5, the ending of the year is the color code. Now, the workers could clean the queen off, and so the mark may not always be there, but we will see a marked queen today, and you'll be able to see what it looks like. All right, so the color is her. So the first year, I'm like, man, I want to mark the queen. I caught the queen, put her in there. Everything's golden. I put it up there, real nice and thing. I get the mark on her back, and then I do this.
Oh, she's gone.
She's now back underneath here.
Oh, no.
So, needless to say, I went through a regiment of getting a new queen, only to find out that she lived and killed the queen I got. Because the queen I got was marked, all right, and marked different color, and she was marked, and she stayed, and that one never did. So it cost me a little bit of money and time to go get the queen, but and that hive, she's still in that one hive. Right?
How long do you keep your queens?
Well,
Because somebody was telling me they pitch their queen every year
okay.
and get a new queen.
So, because again, if you got a queen that's laying 300 eggs a day versus a queen that's laying 1,500 eggs a day, see how much quicker you're going to get to a stronger colony? So that's really where it lies. And if you're going to be in a 1 to 2 colony, whatever, the other reason why people kill their queen is obviously the temperament. The temperament typically is given by the queen of the colony. So if you've got a queen that she just went south and now these bees are chasing you all the way to the house and they're just madder than ever, that might be a time that you want to, get a queen and then get rid of the other queen.
One of our queens is in the 4th year and one's in its 3rd year, and they're still laying complete frames.
Again, a queen, they live, they say up to 7 years, and she may have it's all about how much sperm that she got when she made it. Okay? That's really kind of where that ends up at. And if it's a good mate, she could do good for a long time. I'm sure genetics have something to do with it, and the hive to put at least amount of stress on her and the rest of the colony as possible. Probably the way to go about it. Anyway, so a little bit on marking and stuff like that. When we do this extraction today, we're gonna have one of these. You can have either a metal one or a plastic one, because when we cut that tree open, we're gonna be looking for the queen. And we wanna try to grab the queen as quickly as possible. Because if we grab the queen, then what we're gonna do is we're gonna put her in the box and set the box on its side and let the bees crawl into it and go into where she's at. If we can't find the queen, in a fairly reasonable amount of time, we'll turn the vac on and vac the bees out of there, because sometimes we may not just be able to get into it. Now, with cutting it in half, I should, but if it was awkward trying to get up in there to cut the comb out, I'd really like to vac as many bees off and hopefully get the queen, so that I'm not cutting around and cutting her in half and squeezing her and mashing her. Because again, when you go extract bees and get bees, if you don't get the queen, you got nothing. All right? You just have nothing, especially on a swarm. You've got bees that all of those bees, except for the queen, is going to die in 60 days or less. Probably most of them, because they're flying, are already at 20. So now you're looking at bees that are going to live for 25 days. That's what you have. That's why when you hear these people say, oh, well, you're getting free bees, so why should you charge me? But you don't realize, number one, those bees may not want to stay where I take them. So I got nothing at that point, you know. Now, swarms are a different story. I'm not saying you necessarily charge for swarms, but depending upon the situation, if I have to go to a place that these people say, we have a business and we have a swarm here and it's keeping us from conducting business, well, they have a value in me getting those bees. I have a value in getting those bees. So it's an equal thing at that point, and it's like your value, you know, is much greater than my value. Because I don't necessarily have to have those bees. And they may not stay, but you're not gonna have the problem once I leave. So I'm fixing your problem, so here's what the rate is. But in the bee world, you got a lot of bee people that they want free bees. They'll go do free work all day long. And that's okay, but doesn't minimize the risk. And people gotta realize when you go out there and you put risk out, they can sue you. They can do kind of things that if you don't have insurance and license and things, you can find yourself in trouble real quick.
Do you ever take those bees that you go and find?
The reason they're weak going into the winter, combine the two, each one of the queens, call somebody and say, hey, I have a 1-year-old queen, I just bought these and she's a year old, you need a queen, I need a queen. So you don't have to necessarily kill the queen, share stuff. And now you have one with a queen, one without a queen, and you might go, hey, this one's a little ornament here, I'm gonna give the ornament to that person, I'm gonna keep it nice with you. However you want to do it. But anyway, so yes, you can combine, and another way of combining is just set that hive out beside the other one. All right, they're going to do a couple things. They're going to figure out they don't have a queen, they may requeen. All right, but what you're trying to do at that point is not requeen, especially in the fall.
You want them to go in the other.
You want them to combine in that hive. Another thing you're going to hear is just drafting. Okay, so you got 2 hives, and you buy them at the same time, and you have 15,000 bees in each hive. But you also notice maybe 3 inspections down the road that this one has 20-something thousand bees and this one only has 8,000 bees. Or 2 frames of bees. Happened is some of these bees have grafted over here, drafted over inside the hive. A couple things you can do: move them further apart, all right, and hopefully you'll kind of eliminate that continuing to happen. But here's the rule of thumb: moving your hives 3 feet or 3 miles. No more than 3 feet, and if you're going to move more than 3 feet, move them 3 miles. Now, one exception to that rule is you might have a 1,000-year flood at your place, and water's rising, and I got to get these bees out of here now. Okay, so if you do have to move them something other than 3 feet and 3 miles, you have no option. Move them, and then place some brush and sticks in front of their entrance, where it makes it difficult for them to get out. Not impossible, but difficult. What happens is, as they climb over all that stuff to get out, they reprogram their GPS and then come back to that spot. So, again, if you were to move them 20 feet, the majority of leavers and coming back are going to go back to where that hive was at. If they can't find it, and inclement weather comes in, you could lose potentially 2/3 or more of your colony. And real quick.
Do you agree when you split
I
that
have
you?
pictures that I can go through and show you this inspection, that inspection, that inspection. You're like, wow, that wasn't very many bees. Oh, look at that, double, look at that, triple in bees, you know? And so you can look at a picture and make a determination kind of what you have. And so we're gonna look at the number of bees that we have. And then we're going to start looking to find out what resources we have on the outside. That'll be the quick part of looking how much honey we have. And again, not every frame is absolute honey, absolute pollen, absolute brood. It's a variety, and that's okay. As we get into the brood area, that's when we want to start looking more focused for the queen and or eggs. So looking for eggs, you can find that area pretty quick, because if you have a good laying queen, it'll be a fairly solid pattern that she will build out from, okay? If it's real patchy, spotty, then there may be a problem with the queen, and we'll note that for that hive. But when you find larva is pretty easy to find. It kind of stands out. When you find larva, you'll tend to find older larva, and then around the edge of it, a little bit smaller, and a little bit smaller, and then you'll see a little liquidy in there, and maybe the half seed of the larva, and then right outside that edge is typically where you're going to find eggs. So in other words, rather than having to take the whole frame and we got any eggs? Is there any eggs? Just focus in on that one spot, because you may have this much brood, you know, and then you may have a little pollen out here, and maybe a little honey on the outside of that, but you got this big old brood pattern, or maybe the whole thing is brood. Now I got to flip over to the other side and see where I can find some eggs, right? But if I got frame after frame after frame of brood, she's running out of places to lay. And that would be a concern of what she doesn't have a desire, which is going to be the main bees have a desire, and tell her we need to swarm. So that's what we're going to look at. And then we're obviously going to recognize queen cells if they're there, right? So some of these will have queen cells because they were trap outs from a tree that I got no queen, that I had to do something to make a queen. And so I took a frame of eggs from another one, introduced them to them, and then instantly they started making queens. So there are some that I'll show you that these queens are less than a month old that are in there. And some of them are just getting after it, lickety split, laying eggs. Matter of fact, I had that full of eggs the other day from one queen from a trap. Well, that was raised from a trap. Now, the thing about it is, my queen that I currently have is going to dictate the temperament, more than likely, of the new hive, not the bees that I trapped out. Right? They're going to fly around. But they have not been where they've been aggressive, where typically an aggressive bee that you're going to find is when you feel things just hitting you. Not necessarily collecting on you, but just hitting you. All right? If you get a lot of where you feel, wow, something just hitting me, that's probably more of an aggressive bee. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but that's, and then if that happens over and over, maybe getting worse, that's when you might want to look at, hey, let's look at maybe requeening. You know, all right. So again, if you get stung, just say, hey, I got stung, back off. I'm going to carry some of these with me down there, put them in my hive. Here we are. And so basically, I'll just tear one of these off, hand it to you, and then you open it up, break the vial, and just put it on where. If you did get stung, so does anybody know how many stings it takes to actually kill a person that's not deathly ill or getting stung?
1,000.
About 500. About 500 stings. So how many?
Years ago, you read in history of us, one